So I'm actually curious. You mentioned your tree.
The critical to quality tree.
The critical to quality tree. I'm very curious if I know we have our whiteboard, if you could draw it, and I would love to see how that looks visually.
I certainly can, please. My handwriting is just above chicken scratch, so I hope you're able to understand this. Okay, so we're going to talk about a tool. We learned this in Lean Six Sigma, and it's called a critical to quality tree. You can look it up, it's everywhere. Or what we call CTQ. And what you use this for is when, as we talked about, when you have something that you can't really do a measure. So if you're saying, I want to improve the time, that's easy. You can time something and then you can make the improvements. So you can time it and see whether it's improved. But when you have something like health, so we were talking about health. So let's talk about health. So when you have something like health, it's very difficult to say, how am I going to measure this? So then you identify what we call drivers. So, and we talked about this. One of the drivers, I mean, you can name it differently. There's no right or wrong. You have size as a driver. We talked about your vitals. Okay, those doctors watching this, please. I'm using the wrong term, but we know what I mean, right? And we have activity. Right? Now, you can have many drivers, many, but let's choose these. So, all of these are drivers. And so then you can now look and say, okay, so if these represent, kind of what I would want to look at with regards to health, what are some of the things that I would measure for size? And we talked about it, which is what most people look at, which is your weight. Right? The other thing you look at with regards to size are your inches. Let's look at your vitals. When you go to the doctor, what is it that the doctor also tells you? I look at your blood pressure. They may look at, as we said, your cholesterol. They can look at your body fat percentage, right? This is what, Johan, you were referencing when you said, well, muscle is more than fat. So this can be going down, but your weight may still be the same. But if you were measuring this along with this, you will see that whatever activities you are doing to improve your health, you are impacting this first before you got to this. Then you look at activity. You might be able to say, I want to be able to run a marathon. Sub 3 hours. Today, 5 hours and you're passed out. So you got a ways to go, but you want to be able to run a marathon. You want to be, maybe you do line dancing. You want to be able to line dance for 1 hour without stopping. Right? Maybe you're biking, so you want to bike 50 kilometers in, let's say, 30 minutes. I'm not sure. Maybe you're doing it today. And so what you've realized is you've moved from something that is this thing that is important, but you can't really say, I have a measure of health. And by identifying the drivers, and then you're identifying different measurements, you have now identified all of these as possible, whether you want to call it a Y, whether you want to call it a KPI. You've identified all of these measures that are proxies to your health. And as you can see, when you only focus on weight, when you have all of these others that may improve for your weight, then you're actually maybe sabotaging yourself, because you will say, okay, you throw up your hands and say, what I'm doing is not working. But it is. It's just you either only have one measure that changes long after these, and these measures, you might see movement in these measures before you see the movement here. But you abandon the process because this one isn't showing you what you want to see. So I love it as a tool. Like I said, the other things that you can use something like this is when your customers say, I want good quality. When your customers say, I want safety. When your customers say, as your employees, I want a good culture, right? You can take culture and you can say, what are the drivers? We talked about it. I think one of the big drivers for culture is trust. Can you measure that? So this is what we call a critical to quality tree, and it's generally used when you have something that may not be easily measurable, because we have talked about the importance of data to inform what it is that you do to improve or even create and design.
Well, I really think that's a really great tool.